And so this deal, it sounds like it's been reached. In principle, there still needs to be a rubber stamp or something from the White House. Is it a fait accompli?
Well, it would seem so. I mean, if the American in negotiating people have actually signed on the deal, they've signed the documents, it's unlikely that Barack Obama would come out and just throw everything.
That would be a shock.
It would. I mean, there doesn't seem to be any basis for that.
Yeah. Do you know what's been going on over the last few days? Because it seemed like they were quite far apart. America saying everybody accepts our exports. South Africa saying there are huge health concerns here. And I was wondering how they would find common ground.
Well, it would seem, I mean, if you look at what has been agreed on, it would seem that if this was a boxing match, you would say that America has won the boxing match hands down. They've practically gotten everything that they wanted. They got South Africa to back down and just forget about many of the things that South Africa was insisting on, whether it's regarding chicken, pork or beef. Americans got everything they wanted, and South Africa basically, and that's how we've said AGOA.
Apparently there are some terms and conditions. Have we won any concessions in terms of those health concerns that we had? Talk of possible salmonella in chicken, although the Americans would say you just put it on the pan and then it's okay.
It's very interesting that there was a press briefing on Monday by the three South African government ministers, Rob Davies of DTI, Aaron Motsoaledi from Health, and Senzeni Zokwana from Agriculture. The tone in that press briefing was very robust, no capitulation, whatever. Today, to a different story. Their tone had changed completely on almost everything. Aaron Motsoaledi even going as far as saying that, all this talk about salmonella in US chicken, saying that even our own chicken actually has salmonella, that every chicken in the world has salmonella. So he is kind of suggesting that he doesn't know what the whole brouhaha is all of a sudden.
That's interesting because he was part of the brouhaha.
Well, yeah, I mean, if you contrast his statements on Monday and what he was saying today, I mean, he's sounding like a totally different man. On the beef issue, South Africa was saying that the cows that American farmers buy from other countries, slaughter them in the US and sell them to us, those cows would have to be quarantined in the US for 90 days, 3 months, before they are slaughtered and they are checked for health risks, whatever. Americans said that's not going to happen. All our beef from us is safe. We've got sufficient standards to make sure that everything is safe, and they got away with it. So there's going to be no quarantine. Pork, US pork has been barred from this country for many years, throughout the period of the previous AGOA, which was 15 years. Because of health concerns, Americans are going to be importing their pork here unrestricted all of a sudden.
Wow.
Salmonella, Americans are going to import their chicken here. Some concession there was that the South African government will inspect those consignments only for 3 months, and then after that they're going to come with some sampling system which they're still going to develop, it would seem, totally putting away what South Africa has been insisting on all along, that all chicken, South Africa apparently imports chicken from 3,000 different sources around the world. All chicken that comes into this country is inspected according to a global manual for things like salmonella and other things. Yes. So the Americans see that manual be put aside, and it is going to be put aside.
So this sounds like South Africa really has backed down, as you say. Did you sense any concern, any resentment about that? Last year, the rhetoric was getting tougher, and President Jacob Zuma said that South Africa didn't like being treated like a colony, didn't like being threatened by the US. But I think if we look at the balance of power here, we had more to lose in terms of our exports to the US.
Well, in a nutshell, I think we are all aware of how America conducts its foreign policy and trade policy in the world. And this case is a classic example. It's not different from, you know what I mean, the Americans.
Is South Africa feeling bullied?
Well, I'm not so sure. I mean, I wasn't in negotiations, but comparing what the ministers were saying, the language and the tone, the posture on Monday, and what they are saying today, following the conclusion of this deal last night, they look like totally different people. Also, we understand that there was a meeting with the US ambassador on Tuesday, before yesterday's crucial meeting, and look at what has come out in the agreement. It would seem that probably the American ambassador, if anything, probably bullied the South Africans into giving in to American demands. All
right, we have to leave it there. Very interesting development. At least good news for some of the exporters. What was at stake here was citrus fruit, wine, macadamia nuts, those sort of things going into America. Rob Davies confirming earlier that a deal had been reached. Our reporter Mbongeni Muthwa saying that that's largely on the terms of the United States.